Macau.
The three men were very disappointed and arrived in Macau in late 1835. The three were invited to stay with German-born Dr. Gutzlaff, who had a genius for languages and an earnest Protestant Christian missionary. Gutzlaff also saw this as an opportunity to learn Japanese.
Your English is very good. I have to learn Japanese because I want to translate the Bible into Japanese. Teach me Japanese, please. I have to go to Japan by all means to spread Christianity there.
The three agreed to do it, but they were not pleased about it.
I never expected to find a Japanese town in Macau.
It means that Japan cannot be far from here.
Oh, I've had enough of Christianity already. I prefer Buddhism.
The three men were anxious to go back home to Japan, so they pushed themselves to help Dr. Gutzlaff finish the translation as quickly as possible. Thus, from January of 1836, they began translating the Gospel of John, as well as the first, second, and third letters of John. The men were fearful of being discovered by the Japanese government, though, as it was forbidden in Japan.
I've had enough. Wherever you go in foreign lands, you'll find Christians. I'm afraid of the Japanese law. When they find out that we have helped Christians, they will surely behead us.
We can help it in order to survive, Kyukichi. We are not in Japan. Are we, Otto?
It took them about 11 months to complete the translation. It is now the oldest Bible in the Japanese language. While in Macau, the three were introduced to four other Japanese sailors who had been shipwrecked, and Dr. Gutzlaff went to the office of the American Oliphant and Company and asked if they would send the 7 Japanese men back to Japan by one of their ships. Mr. King, an expedition consular of American Oliphant and Company, promised that they would as soon as possible.
It's like a dream, isn't it, Iwakichi?
We can all go home finally. When do we leave?
On the evening of July 3rd, 1837, the Morrison, a 3-mast, fast-sailing ship, left for Japan. They agreed not to carry arms or Bibles on board, lest they provoke the Japanese government's ban against Christian faith. Thus, the voyage back home to Japan began 5 years later for the last of the crew of the Hojin Maru.
Look at the ship there, see? It's a Sengoku Bune. It's one of our own Japanese ships.
Oh, yes, I see them. Look how many of them there are.
The ship was approaching the Ryukyu Islands and would soon reach their destination, Edo Bay.
Captain Ingersoll, we can get there faster if we sail close to the coast and ride the broad current.
Around 6 the next morning, the soft breeze and ocean current had taken the ship as far as Shizuoka Prefecture.
Hey, you two, wake up. Come up here and look at the view. It's Mount Fuji.
Mount Fuji. Mount Fuji!
We are back to Japan.
True. It is a beautiful mountain. Japan is a wonderful country.
My dead brother Kichijiro has always protected us until this day.
The drifters forgot themselves and danced with joy. How long they had been waiting for this moment. However, the reception they would receive in Edo Bay would leave them with quite different feelings.
The fog is very heavy this morning, isn't it? Huh. Did you hear that sound?
It was probably the roar of thunder. Don't worry.
No, that must surely be the booming of gunfire. I've heard the same sound before. It must be a cannon.
Then, as the fog vanished, they could see the cannon directed right towards the Morrison.
They are aiming at us.
The Tokugawa government may not accept us.
Oh, no, not now. We are so close. And yet, Mom, look this way. Your sign is right here.
The shelling continued despite the raising of a white flag, so the Morrison retreated from the bay and set sail for the west. All those on board were deeply disappointed and discouraged.
I don't mind dying. If I can only see my wife and son.
I've done my very best all the time. When the Ho Chi Minh was hit by the storm, or when we lived among strangers in a strange land, I survived because I always had a hope that someday I would go home. Father, I wish to see you. Mother, I want to see you too.
On August 10, 1837, the crew made a decision to head for Kagoshima as a second place of landing and negotiations. It was well known among Europeans as a place where Jesuit Francisco Xavier landed in 1594 and began spreading Christianity in Japan. This time the crew met with a warm welcome. However, the atmosphere would quickly change into one familiar hostility.
Iwakichi, now can we really put our feet on the Japanese land and walk back home?
Certainly we can this time. The officials listened to our story with tears in their eyes.
However, those tears were a mask for something far more ominous.
Iwakichi, I wonder why they're putting up camp curtains.
What? Did you say camp curtains? That cannot be true. Are they going to shoot at us again?
There was a great uproar on the deck, and when the wind calmed down, suddenly all at once they began to fire at the Morrison.
What have we done to receive such treatment? We are Japanese, aren't we?
We have been deserted, forsaken by Japan.
Once again, everyone was saddened and angry with what had happened. The Morrison hoisted up its sails and hurried and sailed away from Kagoshima Bay under the bombardment of shells.
What does our country mean to us? What does the government mean to us? I don't want others to feel like me, so miserable and forsaken my own country. Father, Mother, farewell.
All attempts at seeking trade with Japan and returning the 7 shipwrecked sailors to their home country had ended in failure. In a way, these Japanese men were used as a means of forcing Japan to open trade with foreign countries, and thus they had to endure the misery of being forsaken by their country. The basic policy of the Tokugawa government during their time of national seclusion was to only house shipwrecked sailors at the Nagasaki port and provide them with necessary food and water. The time when Otokichi and the others arrived was the strictest form of this policy, in which every foreign ship was fired upon, regardless of their reason for traveling to Japan. The 7 Japanese stepped down the ladder with heavy feet. They returned to the same port in despair from which they had just left 2 months earlier with bright hopes. They made up their minds to live in a foreign land, but they made a pledge to help other shipwrecked Japanese safely return home.
I was shipwrecked at 16 and couldn't help my parents as a son, but instead I have become a great source of sadness to them. I think about them morning and evening and have no moment of peace in my heart. Therefore, I want to take care of other Japanese drifters and help them return home, hoping this will take the place of my own duties to my parents.